Every once family gatherings bring people closer, but that day, standing behind the grill with smoke curling into the summer air and laughter echoing across my backyard, I realized how far apart my family had truly drifted. Before we go deeper, let me introduce the people who shaped this story and nearly broke me in the process. My name is Margaret Hayes. I'm 59 years old, a retired caterer from Savannah, Georgia, and a mother who spent most of her life believing kindness could fix everything. My son Daniel is 33, married to Lydia, a sweet girl at first, though her family carries a different kind of sweetness, the kind that turns sour when you're not looking. And then there's Rita, Lydia's mother, a woman who never met a mirror she didn't love or a person she couldn't judge. Her brother Mark completes the picture, loud, smug, and always ready with a joke at someone else's expense. Before we start, dear listeners, tell me where you're watching or listening from. I love knowing how far these stories travel. And if you enjoy stories about life, family, and the unexpected lessons that come with them, make sure to join our little community so you don't miss what's next. Now, let's get back to that barbecue, the day that changed everything. It was late June, the kind of hot, golden day where the air smells like grass, charcoal, and sun-warmed lemonade. My backyard was decorated with string lights and sunflowers. 300 guests. Friends, neighbors, even old clients from my catering days. The barbecue had started as a small community thing after my husband passed away 7 years ago. But over time, it became a tradition. Every year I'd host, cook, and serve until my feet ached. It kept his memory alive. This year, though, I wanted to make it special. My son and daughter-in-law were coming, and I hoped maybe it would bring everyone a little closer. At 2:30, cars lined the street. Guests laughed, music played softly, and my smoker hissed gently in the corner. Then, at nearly 4 o'clock, just when the event was in full swing, I heard it, the distinct sound of expensive heels on my driveway, and voices that carried. Lydia's family had arrived. They swept in like royalty, Rita in a wide-brimmed hat, Mark in designer sunglasses, and 3 cousins behind them. Not a dish, not a dessert, not even a bag of ice. Empty-handed, yet already complaining about the heat. Good heavens, Margaret, Rita called out, her voice slicing through the chatter. 300 people. You must be desperate for attention. Guests nearby turned, awkward smiles frozen on their faces. I laughed politely and said, "Oh, just trying to keep everyone fed." Mark grabbed a plate before I could answer. "Looks like you overdid it again," he said loudly. "Guess retirement gives you too much free time, huh?" A few people chuckled, that hesitant kind of laugh people use when they're not sure it's funny, but don't want to seem rude. I felt my cheeks flush, but I smiled anyway. That's what I'd learned over the years. Smile and let it pass. Except this time, it didn't pass. Rita's voice carried over the microphone that I'd left near the DJ booth. "Well," she said, pretending to toast her daughter, "we may not have Margaret's free time, but we're so proud of our Lydia. Some of us raise CEOs, others just raise chefs." The crowd tittered. My hands froze around the serving spoon. Even Daniel looked down, avoiding my eyes. My heart dropped, not from anger, but from the deep, familiar ache of disappointment. For years, this had been my role in the family, the hard-working one, the overgiver, the one they took for granted. When Daniel married Lydia, I welcomed her with open arms. I even catered their wedding for free. But as months turned into years, I began noticing small things. How Rita always found a way to compare, to diminish, to remind me that their family moved in different circles. Lydia, caught between us, stayed silent. I thought time would soften things. I was wrong. I kept serving food, smiling for the guests, pretending I hadn't heard a thing. but inside, I was breaking. Every word felt heavier than the last. "Oh, Margaret," Rita called again. "This potato salad, did you make it from scratch or from a box this time?" Laughter. Cameras flashed. Someone actually filmed it. My hands trembled. I turned away, hiding behind the smoker. You know that moment when humiliation burns so hot it feels cold? That was me, frozen, smiling at the grill, while inside I wanted the earth to open up and swallow me whole. But then something unexpected happened. An elderly neighbor, Mrs. Keller, touched my shoulder gently and whispered, "Don't let them ruin this day. Everyone here came because of you." She smiled and took a plate of ribs. "You have more grace than all of them combined." Those words, simple, kind, steadied me. I exhaled, straightened my back, and kept working. As the sun began to set, the band played and people danced. Rita's family laughed loudly near the buffet, still making jokes. "She thinks she's Martha Stewart," Mark said, not realizing his voice carried through the mic again. "Next year maybe she'll sell tickets." More laughter. I looked around at the string lights swaying in the evening breeze, at the faces of people who actually cared, and I thought, this will be the last time they mock me like this. I didn't shout or cry. I simply kept pouring lemonade, greeting guests, and smiling. Because when you've spent a lifetime being dismissed, silence becomes your sharpest tool. Around 8, as I was packing up dessert trays, headlights flickered down the driveway. A sleek black car pulled in, polished, quiet, out of place. A man in his 50s stepped out, well-dressed, but friendly, scanning the crowd. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you Margaret Hayes?" I nodded, wiping my hands nervously on my apron. "Your barbecue is the talk of the event," he said. "I was at the governor's fundraiser last month. The food tasted exactly like this. Was that you?" Rita, standing nearby, froze mid-sip of her wine. "Governor's fundraiser," she repeated, half laughing, half shocked. The man smiled. "Yes, ma'am. I run Reynolds Estate, the event venue downtown. I've been looking for the chef who catered that night. The flavors, the presentation, unforgettable." A hush fell over the group. I felt every eye turn toward me. "That was me," I said quietly. It was a one-time favor for an old friend. The man extended his hand. "Then it's a pleasure to finally meet you. If you ever consider coming out of retirement, I'd like to talk business." For the first time that day, Rita had nothing to say. She stood there, glass trembling, mouth half open. I smiled politely and shook his hand. "Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. I might just take you up on that." And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt seen. As the guests began to leave, Lydia approached me quietly. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Her eyes were full of guilt, maybe even fear. I just patted her hand. "Don't be, dear. Everyone shows who they are, eventually." Tonight just made it easier to tell who's who. When the lights went out and the backyard was silent again, I sat alone by the grill, staring at the dying embers. The night air smelled like smoke, sweet corn, and something else, peace. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but I knew one thing for certain. That barbecue wasn't just a party. It was a turning point. And as I leaned back in my chair, the faint glow of my phone screen lit up a notification from a stranger online. Someone had already uploaded the clip of Rita's chef comment. The caption read, "Grace under fire," literally. Thousands of views. Comments pouring in. I laughed softly. For the first time in years, I didn't feel humiliated. I felt ready. Ready for whatever came next. When I woke up the next morning, the first thing I heard wasn't birds, or my coffee maker sputtering to life. It was my phone buzzing non-stop. Messages, tags, notifications. I rubbed my eyes, half convinced I was still dreaming. Then I saw it, the video from the barbecue. Rita's voice clear as day, saying, "Some of us raise CEOs. Others just raise chefs," followed by her laugh, the uncomfortable silence, and my smile. Someone had captured everything. The caption read, "When grace speaks louder than humiliation." Overnight, it had over 200,000 views. People were leaving comments like, "This woman handled it with class, and that laugh in the background says it all." I scrolled for a long time, both stunned and oddly comforted. It wasn't fame I cared about, it was validation. Proof that maybe, just maybe, kindness wasn't weakness. By mid-morning there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Mr. Reynolds, the man from last night, holding a box of pastries and a polite smile. "I hope I'm not intruding," he said, "but I couldn't stop thinking about your barbecue. May I come in?" We sat at the kitchen table, the same one I'd cooked countless family meals on, and he explained that he ran one of the largest event venues in Savannah. He'd been at the fundraiser I'd catered months ago as a favor for an old client. "Margaret, I've been in this business for 30 years, he said, sipping his coffee, "and I can tell when someone has a gift. You don't just cook food, you tell stories with it." I smiled, a little embarrassed. "I don't know about that. I just love seeing people happy when they eat." He chuckled. "Exactly. That's what people remember. Would you consider consulting for us? Menu design, event planning, maybe even train a few of my chefs." I nearly dropped my coffee. Me. After all these years. "You'd be surprised how far experience goes," he said. "Sometimes the best people are the ones who never needed a spotlight to shine." It felt unreal. After years of being made to feel small, someone was seeing me for what I truly was, capable, creative, and still worth something. I told him I'd think about it. Later that day, I called Daniel. His voice was hesitant, nervous. "Mom, about yesterday." "Lydia's family didn't mean to." "Daniel," I interrupted softly, "don't defend them. I've been around long enough to know exactly what they meant." There was silence on the other end. "You're right," he said finally. "I'm sorry for not saying something. I should've." "It's all right," I said. "You'll learn." Silence protects the wrong people sometimes. That night, I walked out to my garden, my husband's garden, really. He used to tend it every evening, pruning the roses, whistling off-key. The air smelled of soil and memory. I thought about how far I'd come since those early years, working 2 jobs, packing lunches, saving every penny so Daniel could go to college. I'd built something out of almost nothing. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to build again. A few days later, I accepted Mr. Reynolds' offer. I started small, designing menus, training his staff, bringing back recipes I'd nearly forgotten. For the first time in years, my days had purpose again. My nights, peace. Meanwhile, the video kept spreading. A local paper picked it up with the headline, "Savannah woman turns humiliation into a masterclass in grace." I didn't tell anyone, not even Daniel. But someone else found out. Rita. A week later, I was at the venue helping set up for a wedding when Lydia called. Her voice was tight, brittle. "Mom, can we talk?" "My mother's furious. She says you orchestrated the video to embarrass her." I laughed softly. "Lydia, I didn't film a thing. Maybe people just finally saw her for who she really is." Silence. Then Lydia sighed. "I think she's scared. People at my dad's firm have been whispering about it. Bad. Then maybe it's time she learned what humiliation feels like." I said quietly. That evening, I came home to find a message on my answering machine. It was Rita, her voice sharp and shaky. "Margaret, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but you've caused real damage. If you have any decency, you'll make a statement clearing this up." I listened twice, then deleted it. The next morning, the local TV station called. They were hosting a feature on small businesses led by women over 50. "We saw your story," the reporter said, "and we'd love to have you share your journey from humble beginnings to finding your voice again." I hesitated. Me, on television. But something inside me, the same quiet strength that had kept me going all these years, said yes. The day of the interview, I wore my favorite navy blue dress, simple pearl earrings, and the faintest shade of lipstick. I sat under bright lights and spoke honestly about resilience, about finding power in grace, about how humiliation can't destroy you unless you let it. The host smiled and said, "You're an inspiration, Margaret. You remind us that dignity is the best kind of revenge." When the episode aired, the response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from women who'd been dismissed, ignored, underestimated. They thanked me for standing tall. But one message stood out, a short, cold text from Rita. "You think this makes you better than us? Wait until people forget your little moment." I stared at it for a while, then deleted it too. Because what Rita didn't understand was that I didn't need anyone to remember me. I just needed to remember myself. 2 weeks later, Mr. Reynolds called again. "Margaret," he said, "we have a major event next month. The Chamber of Commerce wants us to handle the annual business gala, 500 guests. Local press, even a few state officials. I want you to lead it. 500 guests. A challenge? A chance?" "I'll do it," I said. And that decision, that single yes, set in motion something none of us saw coming. Because among those 500 guests would be a very familiar family. The same people who'd laughed, mocked, and belittled me in my own backyard. But this time, the stage and the power would be mine. There was a soft murmur of agreement across the hall. Rita shifted uncomfortably. I didn't need to look at her directly to know she understood. I wasn't there to humiliate anyone. I was there to show that quiet strength always finds its way to the light. After the applause, people approached me to congratulate, to ask for cards, to shake my hand. I could see Daniel making his way through the crowd, pride shining in his eyes. "Mom," he said softly, "I had no idea. I'm so proud of you." I hugged him tightly, whispering, "You don't have to defend me anymore, darling. Just live with integrity. That's all I need." Then Lydia approached. Her voice trembled. "Margaret, I don't know what to say. My family." I placed a hand on her arm. "Lydia, sometimes it's not what we say. It's what we learn. Maybe this will teach all of us to be kinder." Her eyes glistened. "You didn't deserve what happened at that barbecue." I smiled faintly. "I know, but I'm grateful it did. Without it, I might still be standing behind a grill, hiding my worth." Later that night, as guests danced and laughter filled the hall, I saw Rita standing alone by the exit. She looked small, not arrogant or composed, just human. For a brief moment, I considered ignoring her, walking past without a word. "But that wasn't me, Rita," I said softly. She turned, startled. "Margaret," she said, her voice unsteady, "I suppose congratulations are in order." "You've certainly made an impression." I nodded. "So have you," I said kindly, "but not the kind I'd wish for anyone. I hope you find peace, truly." She blinked, speechless. As I turned and walked away, the next morning, the local newspaper ran a feature about the gala. From backyard barbecue to Savannah's brightest stage, the rise of Margaret Hayes. The article called my story a triumph of dignity over mockery. I clipped it out and pinned it to my kitchen corkboard. right beside Peter's photo. Weeks passed, then months. Life settled into something calm, something beautiful. My work at the venue grew. I trained others, mentored new chefs, even started a small scholarship fund for young culinary students who couldn't afford school. Lydia and Daniel visited often, this time without pretenses or apologies. Slowly, we became a real family again, one built on respect, not appearances. And as for Rita, she stayed quiet. I never saw her at another event. Maybe she learned something from it all. Maybe not, but I had. Because here's what I've come to believe. Sometimes the world doesn't punish cruelty. It simply gives kindness time to bloom until it outshines everything else. And when it does, those who mocked you will have no choice but to stand in its light. So, if you're listening, dear friends, remember this: never let anyone convince you that humility is weakness. It's the quiet power that builds empires of peace, and sometimes all it takes to change everything is one barbecue.